The City of Douglasville's legislative work session for tonight, May the 13th. The invocation will be done by Pastor Gene Fields of One Church. Is Pastor Fields here? Oh, there he is. You look like a young man right there, Pastor Fields.
I will sit here all the time.
It's good to see you. So we'll have the invocation by Pastor Fields, and after that, the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by the Mayor Pro Tem. Please stand for the invocation.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, it's a privilege and an honor to be able to come before you, especially in this setting, Father, and we do not take that lightly. Father, we acknowledge that all things come from you, Father, and if they come from you, they're good, and part of that good is being a part of this community, Father. Father, I take it a privilege to have lived here all of my life, and Father, I'm thankful that I'm surrounded by a community of people who love this community and have passion for that. And Father, part of that is our mayor and our city council. Father, I pray for them tonight. I pray for your wisdom to fill this room, Father, and that we all see this community with your heart and your eyes. Father, we just, again, thank you for the privilege and the honor to be able to be here tonight. Father, I pray for those first responders that are protecting us and taking care of us. And Father, I ask protection over them. Again, Father, we just invite you into this room. And Father, we love you and thank you for loving us. In your holy name I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Pastor Fields. We appreciate you doing the invocation. We have our announcements and presentations. And we'll do our presentation first, and then I'll go over the protocol for the meeting this evening. There is a recognition of the 2021 Historic Preservation Award winners for the downtown Douglasville area, and that will be presented by our Community Affairs Director, Ms. Patrice Williams.
Patrice Williams, Community Development, 6701 Church Street. I have the honor to giving out these awards tonight. The City of Douglasville and the Historic Preservation Commission host an annual award banquet each year. Due to the continued precautions, the Historic Preservation Commission will not be hosting our annual banquet. The Historic Preservation Commission proudly recognizes the following individuals, but before I introduce them, I want to make sure I introduce our Preservation Commission, Historic Preservation Commission. Some of my favorite people here in Douglasville, they're with us tonight. We have Ms. Pat Smith, our chair, Mr. Dennis Conley, Mr. Phil Wren is not here yet, I guess, and then Ms. Elaine Penley-Sears. So thank you all for joining us tonight.
We have icons in the audience.
We do. We do. So our first award is the Donald Bennett Award. This award goes to an individual who has committed their time and their resources to the efforts of preservation within the City of Douglasville. This individual, I love her to death. She served on the Downtown Development Authority. She's also worked closely with the Chamber of Commerce and the CAC. She always had my back and always made sure we had our money straight. And she is committed to downtown Douglasville and preserving our history here. That individual is Ms. Donna Cox.
Would you like to say anything, Ms. Cox?
You know, I do have to say that volunteering saved me.
Aw.
It's everybody needs to be needed, and that is one way you can definitely be needed. And thank you very much.
Oh, congratulations.
All right, our second award, Commercial Preservation Award, is awarded to a commercial property owner, our owners who have significantly improved their commercial property within the calendar year through renovation, rehabilitation, or restoration. This award goes to Ms. Melissa Crumbly. She is located at 12349 Veterans Memorial Highway.
Is she here?
Oh, she's
There
here.
she is. What's the name of the business, Ms. Patrice?
It's currently a rental property in downtown Villa Rica.
or Douglasville, excuse me.
Douglas.
She's located right next to the old Western Alto.
Oh,
She did
yes.
that building.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very much.
Would you like to say anything, or you
Just thank
you
y'all.
want to thank the Academy? You're welcome.
Thank y'all very much.
You're welcome.
All right, and then our final award is the Maintenance Preservation Award. It's awarded to a resident or commercial property owner or owners who have worked diligently at maintaining their historic district property. This property was built in 1960. It is cute as it can be. It's next door to Mitchell Appliance. The address is 6689 East Strickland Street, and it's Miss Holly Illich. She's here with us.
I just wanted to say thank you for this award and for the recognition. And fun fact, it was actually built about 85 years ago. And it's just been, I guess, was originally restored in 1960. So,
Wow.
but thank you.
You're welcome. Congratulations. Will all the awardees please come forward? And the HPC Commission, we've been vaccinated, but we're going to make a photo, as they say, get our picture made. Or not have the mask, it's up to you.
Just as close as everyone feels comfortable getting. Big smile from everyone in this poll. I'm going to take a few. Thank you, everyone.
I know, that's exciting. So I'll go over our protocol for the meeting this evening, and then we'll follow the agenda that is printed, either on the screen or you can have a paper agenda from outside. I would like to welcome you to the Douglasville City Council Legislative Work Session. My name's Rochelle Robinson. I'm mayor of the city of Douglasville. And we are still in COVID-19 protocol until the end of the month. And we'll see if Governor Kemp extends the requirements. But this is an open meeting of the Douglasville Mayor and City Council. Is being conducted by teleconference and in person, consistent with the official code of Georgia, annotated section 50-14-1G, due to emergency conditions involving public safety in order to mitigate the transmission of the coronavirus and to reduce the risk of COVID-19 illness. That section, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows for local governments to meet in whole or in part by teleconference in the event of an emergency, so long as means are afforded for the public to have simultaneous access to the teleconference meeting. For this meeting, we are convening partially by Zoom software, as shown on the city's website, describing how the public may join, which is via YouTube media platform. Assistant City Manager, Ms. Chelsea Jackson, do we have anyone on? We do have people teleconference, and we'll just have the chairperson at that time recognize those individuals. Thank you so much. This is a work session where agenda items are presented for discussion and no official action will be taken tonight. Official action will be taken on these items discussed tonight on Monday at 6 p.m. If the business you are here for is not listed as an agenda item, there will be ample time under the agenda item Comments from Citizens and Delegates section for you to discuss your business. Just a few more points we'll make, and then we'll get into the meeting. I would ask that you would please keep your comments and presentations on a professional level, dealing with the facts that are important for this governing body to make our decisions. We will not accept comments that are considered by the chair to be of a personal attack on any individual or group of individuals, and you will receive a warning from the chair, and if you deviate from this requirement, a second deviation will result in you discontinuing to speak this evening. Only one person speaking at a time. Please do not applaud or react to speakers or speak from the audience or carry on conversations while you're directing your comments to the chair. In saying that, we would ask that you would please direct all of your comments to the chair, and that person will direct or give you instructions if you have anything to pass out or any additional materials. If you have printed materials, please give those to our Assistant City Clerk, who is located in the back. And if you have a cell phone or electronic device, we'll ask that you please put those in silent mode or turn those off until after the meeting so they will not be disruptive. Now, the agenda items will be handled as the following. The committee chairperson will read the agenda item, and then that person representing the agenda item or applicant will make his or her presentation. This will be your first opportunity, and we ask that you would give all your information at that time. Myself and council members will possibly ask clarifying questions to help us understand better to make our decision on next Monday. After that, the chairperson will ask for comments or statements from the audience. There is a maximum of 20 minutes per side, 20 minutes for those in support of that item and 20 minutes for those in opposition. And each person has 5 minutes. If you have more than 4 or 5 people, you can split up your time for 3 minutes a person, but in totality, you only have 20 minutes for each side. And there's no repeat persons coming forward. And there is a speaker card that you should have filled out, and you have that card to our Assistant City Clerk, and or you can talk online, and you should have filled out something, a registration form online. Okay, when you please come forward, please give your name and address for the record. And again, if there is something that is not germane to the agenda, if you would want to talk about that later, you can come up after for citizens and delegates' comments, and you can talk at that point. This is not a question and answer or debate format. We're just really here to receive the information. And again, we'll ask that we not repeat if one person has already said, made a point about that particular issue. I know that's a whole lot of talking, but hopefully everyone understands how the meeting will go this evening. Now we'll move on with the agenda the way it is printed. And again, there should be an agenda on the screen, and or there are paper agendas out on the desk. So we'll move on now to Economic Development Committee, and that's chaired by Mayor Pro Tem Terry Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business under the Economic Development Committee at this time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We'll move on then to Finance Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Mark Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business tonight in finance.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to item number 7, which is Housing and Community Affairs Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Dr. LaShawn Burdanley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business tonight under Housing and Community Affairs.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Legislative and Intergovernmental Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Samuel Davis.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Mayor, I have one item, and I'm going to start with item A, authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with the Douglas County Board of Commissioners and Douglas County Tax Commissioner for collection of Avalon taxes. Ms. Callen, please. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Karen Callen, Finance Director, 6695 Church Street, Douglasville. What you have before is the contract between the city and Douglas County for billing and collections of our property tax bills. And I think we discussed this a little bit at our our budget workshop, and it's just easier for the citizens to get one bill, and it is a lot less expensive this way than it would be to bring it in-house.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ms. Callen and I, we had conversation about this item, and I'd like to put it back on the agenda for Monday for further discussions, if anyone want to discuss it.
Okay. The chairman has asked, do we have any questions as it relates to this item from council members? It looks good, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, well, I'd like to put it on the consent agenda for Monday, if council pleasure. Thank you, Ms. Callen.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
That's all I have, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir. We'll move on then to item number 9, which is Personnel and Organization Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have 2 items tonight, personnel organization. Item A, to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with Quantum Radiology PC to provide mobile mammographic services on May 18th, 2021. Ms. Austin Bing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
This item before you is an agreement for our upcoming health fair on Tuesday, May 18th, where we will provide mobile mammography services with Quantum through Northside Hospital to provide our employees, their dependents, as well as the community an opportunity to receive mammography services here in downtown Douglasville, where we will have our health fair. It's a mobile van. We'll be taking, they will be taking major insurance cards for appointments, and this agreement will allow us to move forward with doing that ahead of our health fair for Tuesday. Any question that you have about Quantum I can take, or the health fair itself, but this will allow us to move forward.
Thank you, Ms. Austin Bing. Anybody have any comments? Or yes, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Good to see you, Ms. Austin Bean.
Thank you, Mayor.
After the mammograms are done, are they provided, sent to your primary care physician, your gynecologist, or whichever, if you're Wellstar, whomever, Tanner?
Yes, ma'am, that's a great question. So in order to actually have the screening services, the employee or the dependent or the community member would need a copy of their orders from their physician, and then Quantum will send those directly to those doctors' offices or, providers that the orders came from. So it's pretty instant as well. I've had it done several times over the past few years, and it's a great service.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Austin Bean. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I had.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Anyone else? Any questions? Ms. Austin Bing, this isn't the first time the city has done this, right?
No, this is about our 3rd time, I want to say, maybe even 4th time, but we like to do this every year. It's convenient, and to bring these type of health services on site for employees just to be able to pop in. We've signed these agreements in the past as well.
Okay, well, I think it's a great service to our employees, and we've had pretty good participation in the past on this.
We've been fortunate enough to fill all of our slots, appointment slots.
Great.
Over the past few years, so.
Okay, well, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I'd like to place this on the consent agenda for Monday. We have another item. Item B, adopt an ordinance to amend the city's personnel policies and procedures and administration code to clarify the reporting procedures of employees' complaints of personnel issues. And Ms. Austin Bing will take this one also.
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Chairman. On this item before you, you should have a red line version that was completed by our staff attorney, Ms. Woodward, as well as a final version. Some of it is housekeeping as far as clearing up grammatical errors, but the main issue behind this edit is to drive the chain of command and have clear processes and reporting procedures for our employees as it relates to 3 areas: discipline, grievances, and harassment complaints. For discipline, we do have a progressive discipline process right now that is escalated up the chain of command, and the final decision-making will rest with the city manager. For our grievances, we want to be clear on this process. Again, having the city manager as the final decision-maker, but the Human Resources Department to begin that process of fact-finding and presenting that information if need be, to the city manager. And then harassment complaints, also clearing this up before. There was language in there where the city manager would be investigating those, which should rest with Human Resources as the investigating department. And so we want to make sure that that's clear, there's no gray. Employees have a clear idea of how to go about reporting any of those 3 up the chain of command. And
to ensure that HR language is added as the capacity of the investigations, as being the investigating capacity and not the city manager. So we wanted to be very clear. Also want to point out that elected officials, your authority is still selecting and hiring and separation of appointed officials. That will not change, but to make sure that those processes are spelled out for employees and driving that chain of command.
Thank you, Ms. Austin Bing. Any questions or comments from, yes, Madam Mayor?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Were you finished?
No,
Thank
ma'am.
you. Okay, I'm good.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Austin Bean. So this is part of their PPO, and each employee will have an opportunity to read the new version that is not red line that we approve and sign a consent form or a form of understanding that they know the process.
So typically what we would do when we have a major update to the PPP that affects employees' rights, we will send that out to all of our employees. Also within our new hires and in our new hire process, we do get acknowledgements. We can still do that as well for our current employees. But what we have done is to make sure that we send those updates out citywide and to make sure we point the reference of where to find that. We also add those to our local drives for access as well. And then we will ask the directors, managers to print those for anyone that does not have easy access to their email or does not have normal access to an email like other office individuals would do. So we're kind of covering it in all areas, but any acknowledgements, especially for new hires that don't have an idea of the process or have not been here for a while, we do get their signed signature on those changes and that they know how to find the city's policies and procedures.
Okay, now I did have a couple of questions. I'm not certain if this is for city manager or not, but with the directors, with the elected body, I know you said something about appointments. And so, of course, each council person has a committee, and that director kind of reports to the council person and the elected body. And how does all that work?
Well, you all are still responsible for the hiring and firing of appointed staff, but as far as reporting duties from an operational standpoint, that still reports to the city manager. The clarity in the PPP really is for the purposes of reporting grievances. The issue is that when employees oftentimes report grievances to you all, if you look in the PPP, there are time-stamped dates on when we have to take action on items. So if they're reporting it to you all, it actually ties up time. It actually can put us into certain issues with litigation. And we've actually had that come up where the employee says, well, I reported it to someone at the city, and it happens to be an elected official rather than HR, who is the official body to do the investigation. So for clarity purposes, we're making certain that Human Resources is the investigative department, making certain that employees understand and know that that's where they're to report the grievances. We're also acknowledging for appointed staff individuals that you all are still the ultimate authority on hiring and firing those individuals, but as far as the managing and the day-to-day, that's the responsibility of the city manager. And any grievances that any employee would have against myself, that would be investigated by the Human Resources Department and reported to you all.
Okay, so it doesn't preclude them from coming to myself, like I always say to the employees when I meet with different departments and the elected body, that, I have an open door, so.
I think it should, per what's in the charter. If you look at the reference in the PPP, you all may want to get the attorney's advice. But in the PPP, it is directed that employees should report to the city manager. My recommendation would be that you all not get involved in those issues with grievances with employees, just based on litigation that we've recently had. I understand the responsibility of wanting to take interest, but I do think it puts you all in a very precarious situation, particularly when the charter specifically states about the involvement of elected officials and staff.
Okay, it's going to be a change of culture because even though we know that we ultimately, hire and fire and the city manager does the day-to-day operations, it's been kind of a family atmosphere when, employees feel like they can come and talk to the elected officials. And we represent the community and the citizens, so it's just going to be a little bit difficult to kind of change the way we've been doing things for a long. Not that we would, go beyond, but I know you don't want us to be convoluted and get into those situations.
And I think you all have done a good job that when an employee approaches you all come to me. The key issue is the key concern that I have is that it just completely removes you all out of the process because the charter specifically states that you shouldn't be involved in the process.
Yeah.
That way it doesn't get you caught up in a deposition or having any knowledge. And we have a process by which every quarter I come to you all and
You
talk
do.
about personnel issues. So you get abreast of those things as well. But for me, for your own protection, I would advise that you not get involved in those types of issues at all. And if you're approached by an employee, my recommendation would be that they go immediately to Human Resources to report any type of claim.
Okay, and we set policy,
Yes, ma'am.
do the day-to-day. I know that's a lot of talking, Mr. Chairman, you're looking at me
That's
like-
okay. No, yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
Okay.
I like clarity and
Yes, sir.
appreciate city manager
Thank
giving us clarity on this
Thank you.
and Ms. Austin Bing. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
I have a comment.
Yes, I'm
Chairman
sorry.
Watts. Oh, no, you didn't overlook me, I just asked. Yes, I would like to say that just as an atmosphere, Madam Mayor, I do agree with you, it's always been family. However, your staff know they can always talk to us. However, if I had a staff come to me immediately, my first question to them would be, have you followed protocol? I've always adhered to our city manager making the report. So if someone came to me, it would always be, did you follow protocol? And I'd say to them, my report will be to the city manager. I encourage you to do the same. So it doesn't just close the door.
Yeah.
And vice versa, because we do represent our constituents, and if our constituents have a complaint against an employee,
Yeah,
then there again, same thing, report it to the city manager, and then definitely deal with that on that end as well.
sometimes they want to be anonymous, they fear, repercussions or something.
And
from-
that's where HR comes involved. HR is typically, unless it's a staff member in HR, that's their protection. And that's in the corporate world as well.
Yeah,
HR is the primary contact, and it removes, the new language removes myself out of that as well, especially since I'm the appeals individual. I try to stay out of those types of discussions until it's brought to me where I have to make a decision to make certain that I'm viewing it from a fair lens. Because again, sometimes those report comes from people who directly report to me. So in order to be able to be objective for that employee and the director, I turn that completely over to Human Resources.
It just, I guess the point I'm getting is if we're listening, because we want to be there for them, and we anything that we could say in sympathy, or just, it could be misconstrued and then, like you say, be involved
and used
in
against you.
litigation.
Can be used again, yes. And really, and I'll say this as well, regardless of the complaint, HR is there to investigate the day-to-day. You all are not there with the day-to-day, so you're hearing from one individual and you're not hearing from the other side. So regardless of and if the person is typically appealing to you, there's a reason they're not at HR. So I just suggest that, as I always say.
One other comment, unless an employee feels like that no one's listening.
Correct. And there's a process for that as well.
There's a process, right.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I think what staff is asking us to do is follow the rules.
Right.
Yeah.
As the rule book is written, and if we don't, then we could be out of bounds.
And I say protection for the citizens and
There you
everybody,
go.
because it costs the city a ton of money when we have to go through legal issues and allegations. And if there is an issue, we have had employees go to EEOC. We deal with those things as well. But as best that we can follow our own doctrine that is written, it saves us a lot of time and money.
Thank you.
And protects the citizens.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, with all that being said, I'd like to place this, if it's appropriate, on this, for the consent agenda on Monday with this particular, okay, thank you.
I see some nods and heads.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. That's all I had tonight under Personnel and Organization.
Thank you so much, Coach Watts. We'll move on then to item number 10, which is Planning and Development Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Mark Adams. This is a long docket that we have for this committee, and so we may have to take a recess in between, like when you go to the theater on Broadway, you have to take a recess, but we'll see. Hopefully, we can get through everything. And I will say, Ms. Williams, you don't have to say Patrice Williams, 6695 Church Street, so for every.
Why not?
Because we know it's Patrice, I mean, the first one she can say it, but it's all the way up to P, and there's only Z in the alphabet. So, if you just say it one time, Patrice Williams, 6595 Church Street, then we'll. But I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Chairman, and not get into your committee. The chair of this committee, Planning and Development Committee, is Councilmember Mark Adams. I need to give you a minute.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
We'll start Planning and Development Committee tonight. It will be a long time. I believe Madam Mayor has already given us the protocol and the time frames involved, so we'll start with a public hearing. That first item, hold a public hearing and consider a request for a variance to reduce the required 50-foot front setback in Section 504B of the Unified Development Ordinance for a variance of 6 feet for a remaining requirement of 44 feet on the north side of a lot of 24.282 acres at 1700 North River Road, Land Lot 173, District 1, Section 5, Tract D, Book 41, page 93. Application by Mr. Brian Cardoza of Rooker Riverside LLC. Ms. Williams?
Patrice Williams, Community Development Director, 6701 Church Street. The applicant is requesting a variance. In this case, the strict compliance with the UDO results in a hardship for the applicant. There are a number of challenges due to the topography and grading of the site. There are no residential properties adjacent to the property. According to the applicant, without the proposed variance, the building shape would be irregular and not preferred rectangular shape. The project is speculative. The Riverside West Business Park has been designed to accommodate 9 to 10 industrial facilities on over 500 acres. The request is pursuant to a city-initiated rezoning approved by City Council, Mayor and City Council on January 13, 2020. We do have the applicant with us tonight for follow-up questions.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. If the applicant would like to come forward and make their presentation, as I said, Madam Mayor has already given her information as to protocol, and we'll look forward to hearing from the applicant and then have comments from the council and Madam Mayor if needed. How are you this evening, sir?
Hey, good evening. Brian Cardoza, representing Rooker Riverside LLC, 445 Bishop Street, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318. I won't repeat what Patrice just read in essence of the time, but I think you heard our request. It's for a variance for a small portion of a building we plan to build within our park. And I brought a visual here that I can point to it if you are so inclined to look at it. But it's about a 70 square foot section on the front right corner of our building. What we're wanting to do is keep it rectangular to have a similar look of other buildings in the park and in the area. As Patrice did mention, the topo, we are trying to stay out, we have to stay out of the creeks and the buffers. The one buffer that we creep into is the building setback. So that's our request, is for this variance.
Thank you, Mr. Cardoza. I had asked a question when I met with staff about this earlier in the week, if there was a amount of square footage in relation to the size of the building that could be quoted, and of course that you've shown that on your attachment here. This 50-foot setback, and you're needing a variance of 6 feet. I'm looking at tract D, that is the tract, correct?
That's correct.
On 24.282 acres. In relation to the street, I do not see, and maybe I just haven't paid attention to it yet, but I'm looking for how that affects, is it the setback from the street itself on that one corner?
It is street side.
Okay, and you are down next to the cul-de-sac, almost at the property in the cul-de-sac, correct?
I'll do this first.
Okay.
Aerial for y'all to see. This is Riverside Parkway.
Mm-hmm.
Riverside Parkway here. The site is in the back.
So you're almost to the end of North River Road and the cul-de-sac there.
I'm going over it. Gotcha. Thank you.
Mhm.
70 square feet approximately. Okay.
And the area we're talking about is on North River Road. It's this corner here.
So if you drove down North River Road, you would be at the far end,
It'd be the
that
far end,
corner.
it'd be the far end of
Okay.
the building. That's
Okay.
correct.
And it appears from the look of your rendering there that you're basically trying to locate the building in the straight part of North River just before it makes its final turn and goes to the cul-de-sac.
That's correct.
Okay. Questions, comments, Madam Mayor or counsel of the applicant? This being a public hearing, I want to give every opportunity for everyone to speak. So if you all don't have any questions at this time, I will then open the public hearing for those that would like to speak either for or against this item. And if you would, please come forward, identify yourself, whether you are speaking for or against, and give us your name and address for the record. Is there anyone here that would speak for or against this item? There is no one, Ms. Williams, there's no one here that's been added that's here on virtually, correct? Okay, thank you. Seeing none, then we will close this portion of this item, close the public hearing, and we will take this up on Monday for consideration of the variance. Thank you, Mr. Cardoza. We'll move on to item B, hold a public hearing and consider a request for a special land use permit for warehousing or indoor storage on properties owned LI Light Industrial District, being approximately 24.282 acres at 1700 North River Road, land lot 173, District 1, Section 5, Tract D. Book 41, page 93, application by Mr. Brian Cardoza of Rooker Riverside LLC. Madam Mayor, why do I have to say all of those the same thing again?
Because you have to read it. It's a public hearing.
Okay, just want to check. Go ahead, Ms. Williams.
I feel like I gotta say it. Patrice Williams, Community Development Director, 6701 Church Street. All right, this is the slot for item A. Mr. Cardoza needs the slot for a warehouse distribution center for an existing industrial park. As he said, it's speculative. It's in the Riverside West Business Park, along with the other projects that he has there, and so he just needs a slot.
Okay. Mr. Cardoza, do you have any information that you'd like to provide? Again, give us your name and address for the record, if you would, please.
Sure. Brian Cardoza, Rooker Riverside LLC, 445 Bishop Street, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318.
Okay.
This is the same site, same building, but this request is for the special land use permit on the 24 acres for approximately 205,000 square feet. I've been before you guys quite a few times over the years as we have developed this park, and we've just put our last phase of road in, which opened up this site for development. And as I've come before you guys in the past, we've had a chance to talk to you all offline as well as your citizens. And one of the things we've heard is the concern for traffic, the trucks in particular. And what we've done over the last couple of years as we've been hearing that is not only market for industrial warehouses, which is what we do as a company for the most part, but once we opened up this last phase, it opened up a couple other sites that we had been marketing for non-warehouse use. And we, thankfully, were very successful last December and again this February to sell 160 acres to Microsoft. That's important, we think, because what that does is it takes, one, it's a great corporate citizen for the park in this community. But two, it takes 2 million square feet of what we had planned to develop as warehouses. It takes that off the market. That translates to a lot of trucks. So now that this last phase has opened up, our hope is that we're coming to you with one of our smaller sites to build a 205,000 square foot spec building. We did also scale this building down by about 20,000 square feet. That's about as small as we could get to make the numbers work for us. So we've tried to listen to what you've said and what the citizens have said. And our hope is that this will be approved.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, Mr. Cardoza, I'm not familiar, I'm familiar with the site, but I'm not familiar with how many tracks you would have remaining after the sale to Microsoft and after Track D is developed, after it's built upon. How many more lots are there in that, on that street? for
There's
you
only
to work
three.
on?
Only three left.
Okay, so there's 3 outside of what you've just closed with Microsoft?
Correct, and outside of this.
Okay.
Yes,
so-
sir.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Questions, comments of council? Madam Mayor, anyone? Okay. Again, this being a public hearing, we need to give opportunity to anyone that may be present. I do not see that we have anyone on virtually, but is there anyone here that would like to speak either for or against the project? Please come forward, give us your name and address for the record, and as we've said, Madam Mayor has given us your time limit. I believe it's 5 minutes each. Is that correct, Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir. 5 minutes per person and 20 minutes per side.
Thank you.
Thank you. Philip Sisk, 9905 Ardwick Greenway, Douglasville, and I do live in Tributary. And I'm not sure whether I'm speaking in favor or in opposition, because I do want to congratulate them on selling that property to Microsoft and putting the data center in there. At the same time, I hope they'll do their due diligence and not have to come back and ask for a variance to offset what's been set already. And I am in favor of a smaller warehouse over there that they're doing. So am I speaking in favor of or opposed?
You're cautiously
I'm
optimistic.
opposed to all warehouses on Riverside Parkway. I do favor a small warehouse more than a large one, so I guess that's good. And I could say, well, you know, the truck industry does move America. I'd just like to see those trucks moving it somewhere else. So
I understand.
whether that's for or against, I'm not sure. But
That's okay, Mr. Sis.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Thank you,
comment.
Mr. Sis.
Yes, sir. Anyone else? Anyone that would come forward and speak for or against this item, please come forward. I'm going to move very quickly, folks. We've got a lot to cover, so if there is no one else, I'll close the public hearing. We'll come back on Monday and take up item B for a vote. Item C. Hold a public hearing and consider a request for a change in zoning from R2 Single Family Residential Detached to LI Light Industrial District for 14.54 acres on Westmoreland Plaza in Land Lot 903, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 5. Application by Euphoric Development 5, LLC. Ms. Williams?
All right, Patrice Williams, Community Development Director. The applicant's request is to develop a warehouse e-commerce distribution center. The preliminary site plan provided by the applicant shows a relatively small warehouse facility totaling 170,720 square feet. It is anticipated the proposed facility will result in an increase in traffic. However, due to the scale and scope of the proposed facility, a traffic study was not required. While there is a residential area near the subject property, there is no street access to the residential property from the proposed development. There are light industrial land uses in proximity of the subject property. If approved, the truck receiving area and loading bays should be designed facing away from the residential land use to north and west of the subject property. Developers should make modest aesthetic improvements along the frontage of Westmoreland Plaza and reinforce buffer on northern and western property boundaries adjacent to residential uses with heavy vegetation.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Is the applicant present?
The
If so-
applicant is with us tonight.
All right, come forward. As you've heard the drill already, sir, if you give us your name and address for the record, we would love to hear from you.
Yes, sir. It's good to be with y'all this evening. I'm Fred Bentley Jr. with Bentley from over in Marietta. I'm an old county attorney from Cobb County and been involved in the zoning arena. So it's great to be in front of you this evening. I've just finished helping Paulding County rewrite a lot of their zoning ordinances and development standards. So I appreciate the efforts that y'all put forth. So thank you for your service. Tonight, I'm here to represent Euphoric Development. I have the two principals of that group, Austin Brannon and my son, Matt Bentley. So it's very few times you actually get a chance to work for your son. So I'm kind of liking that. Again, as was mentioned by Ms. Patrice, it's 170,727 square feet. It is designed in such a way that it meets all of your requirements with the exception of a contemporaneous thing for the parking, although there is ample room on the parking pad to redesign, to provide for parking, but since there might be a flex use as it relates to this, it's anticipated to be a Fortune 500 type company that would use it for a smaller type of distribution. It's located off Westmoreland Plaza, which is already an industrial area. As was mentioned, there are no connectivity to the subdivision to the north. There is industrial that is to the south and the west of this. It backs up to I-20, so that would be one of the views. It's actually, if you run down Westmoreland Plaza, and if you just keep going straight ahead, you're going to run into the property. So it's certainly something that would have some use. That your professional staff vetted this project and recommended in favor of it, as did your planning staff after we appeared at the last meeting. It is obviously something that's 14.54 acres. I do have a visual that I could hand out to y'all that I think might show you what it would look like. Would that be all right?
We have something on our laptops. I'm not certain if it's the exact same thing the city.
Do y'all have?
The city manager will take it. Thank you, Mr. Bentley.
Thank you. You're welcome. And I also have the site plan with me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Again, this has gone through the vetting. I think they're very serious about moving forward with this. These two have developed another venture very similar to this if you wanted to see that. And of course, they could certainly talk to you about that. But this has been something that they have worked on, and they're, I mentioned Brannon. It's part of Brannon Goddard, which is a nationally known group that's involved in this, and they bring first quality tenants to areas. It is very close to the interstate, which is the nicest thing. It's going to run through an industrial area. As I call it, it's kind of the salmon-colored area that's already set up like that. So with that, I will answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir.
Questions of council? Madam Mayor, anyone? Madam Mayor, the Mayor Pro Tem had raised his hand first. I'll
Go, Mayor Pro
acknowledge him
Tem.
first. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess my question right now is directed more towards staff, and I'm kind of curious. It's a semi-rhetorical question, but not entirely. This is kind of a major change to go from residential to industrial. And I guess what I'm wondering is, what was our criteria for zoning this property residential to begin with? What did we see in the potential development of this property that we would have originally considered it for residential development, and then now we changed it to industrial? I mean, that's kind of a big change. And I don't know if you can answer the question or not, but I'll give you a shot.
I really can't answer it. It was already done that prior to any of us arriving, so I'm not really sure if there was a plan in place.
Okay.
Just because it was undeveloped, that's how it was.
Okay.
Residential. Because there's other residential property in that area.
Right.
And things may have just changed with the future land over time.
I mean, I know when we put the UDO together, I mean, there was sort of a theme and an idea behind it and a strategy. And so whenever we go from something that broad of a change, it seems to me that there's really got to be a good reason for it, or something that we didn't see previously. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Madam Mayor?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Bentley, for presenting to us this evening. I have received some opposition from the citizens who live in Somerset subdivision, and I guess I can understand in that subdivision, there's one way in and one way out. I believe it's R4, a nice family subdivision.
Yes,
and so you said that you had buffers on the northern and western part of your development, and it's a Fortune 500 company tenants that would come in and do distribution. So it isn't heavily trucks, because they're already facing, abutting I-20. And so if you have that noise from probably lull you to sleep, like some people in New York listen to different noise or the tracks, would there be truck traffic in addition to traffic on the highway on I-20?
Well, I think one of the things that would be noted is that the staging of the traffic with the photographs that we passed out would be on the side away from. So you're actually going to have a building that will separate, so they shouldn't be hearing much of that noise. It should be deflected into the building itself. The bays would be to the I-20 side, and then perhaps a little bit on the one side. So it should cut that down. And then, of course, the street is the same street that the industrial is already using.
Right.
So, again, you know, if you had to find a perfect place to perhaps locate something where you got the interstate on one side and then you have industrial surrounding it, this probably comes about as close as you're going to find in terms of trying to coexist within communities.
Okay. And so it's like going down there by the hotel and Jackson
That's
Music
correct.
used to be.
That would be
and you
exactly
just
where they go
continue.
right out. That's
Yes.
correct.
And so, okay.
Yes,
I was
ma'am.
just trying to, and we said the same thing, I guess, at Tributary in that area, but they're at night or early in the morning, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, if a truck comes in and they're making noise, backing up into a bay, you know, it can be intrusive on
Yes,
the
ma'am.
citizens that live in the area.
Well, the nice thing about this one is where they're going to back up, there's going to be an entire 20-some-odd tall building, plus you've got the buffer to the north of that 100-foot buffer that's between the two, with the only thing that might be there is if the fire people were to require some minor road around that side. But again, that's not for any truck traffic, it is for emergency vehicles exclusively.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. Thank
Yes,
you,
ma'am.
Mr. Chairman.
Any other comment from council?
Yes, Chairman Adams, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Bentley, for your presentation. So I did drive the route. So I drove off of Fairburn Road, taking a right on to Westmoreland, first Cherokee. So on Cherokee Boulevard, there is a sign that already says no truck traffic. So I'm assuming the trucks will come from Fairburn Road, only from Fairburn Road, and make that right into Westmoreland. Is that correct?
That's my understanding. That's, I think, the way they have to get there.
Yeah, and the way they have to get out, obviously, because that's all residential, going past Christ Abundant Life Church on the right, and
Cherokee.
there are no truck signs all the way down Cherokee.
But trucks are there all the time. They get tickets constantly.
They are, and also they're, unfortunately, and this is not onto you, Mr. Bentley, haven't
Yes,
built the
ma'am.
site yet.
Thank you, ma'am.
But trucks also park in the church parking lot, which they've had complaints about that, and then the damage of the road. My concern and my question, I just want, if I heard you correctly, are you stating there will be a buffer behind the subdivision, but is that where the trucks will dock?
No, ma'am. No, and I apologize, the way it,
Could I interject here, Mr. Bentley? And I
Yes,
think
sir.
I can help. I think I can
Thank
help
you.
Dr. Burdanley. On page number 29 of our attachment, it shows the site plan with the proposed warehouse. If you will look at the top of that where it intersects the residential area, you'll see that there's a 100-foot building setback line. I believe that is, if this were approved, you'd have 100 feet required between the residential property line and the building. And of that, 50 feet would have to be a landscape buffer for buffering of those connections. And also, just for clarity while you're there, maybe this will help too. The parking, as you can see, is on the left side if you're facing it, which abuts industrial. And the trucks would then, and this is not drawn on the site plan, at least not to where there are any bay doors or anything shown, but it would appear then that the trucks would enter and exit backing up at the I-20 side, backing to the north into the end of the building. So the trucks would never be on the backside abutting the residential.
Right, right, so there would just be one way in and one way out.
That's correct.
that's it.
Okay, because on the opposite side from Cherokee Boulevard, taking a right where the church is, it's all residential as well, and it's
They'll
dead
go
end.
right past the hotels and.
Right, and there
And
used to be
that's
a
all
cracker.
residential. You're correct,
That's
Mr.
correct.
Burdanley.
Right, right,
Yes,
so,
yes, ma'am.
right, so for
Yes.
emergency vehicles, it would still have to be the one-way on Westmoreland? Yes,
One way on Westmoreland.
right, if there was an emergency, the emergency vehicles too would have to enter onto Westmoreland.
Yes, that's the only way in and out. There's one
Right.
way in and out of there. I grew up in that area, so I'm very familiar with it. And there's only one way in now that the new road is constructed up Cherokee, right onto Westmoreland. It dead ends into this property. So there's no other way to go. And there's no other residential that is accessed, it's my understanding, from Westmoreland. It's
That's
all
correct.
commercial and industrial.
So the residential concerns that were brought to my attention were the sound, so there's a barrier, but also the trucks entering on Westmoreland, also, they enter onto Cherokee Boulevard.
Right.
So that was the concern, and there's a no truck sign right there on Cherokee.
Yes,
Any
sir.
others? One thing that I would mention here, Mr. Bentley, just because I am familiar with the site, is the fact that there has to be a no truck sign, I'm assuming, on Cherokee as you would travel north
Right.
past Westmoreland. But since Westmoreland has some industrial zone property on it, it has to have truck access onto Westmoreland.
Right.
I'm assuming, and I don't know about where exactly the no truck sign is, but I've heard that comment also. And the fact is, once you leave Westmoreland, you're not supposed to turn right. As far as trucks, that should be autos only, and you'll have to come back to State Route 92.
Right, and the difficulty for a truck taking a left turn is that you have traffic coming out of the racetrack, and it's very difficult for
Yes.
those trucks to turn left. So
Yes.
they take a right,
Yes.
and they abuse the no truck sign. So
Okay.
that definitely will have to be looked at, just to make sure that it's enforced,
Right.
that trucks do not turn right.
Okay. I do
This is
have,
approved.
yes, Ms. Miller?
I was just going to, I believe part of that is also county road, so we'll probably have to work with them on that as far as addressing any of those traffic issues and trucks being able to turn left right there. But I had a question about the buffer. Is there going to be a fence included in that?
I don't know that there were no plans to do that.
Okay.
I think it was to be whatever planted buffer would be
Right.
required.
I was just thinking with it being a residential subdivision there and children playing and possibly dogs out playing and then having, a warehouse on the other side with big trucks, it could potentially be a hazard.
Again,
Have you guys talked with the residents over there at all?
We
To see
haven't
what they
been
might want?
contacted by any of the residents.
And they do have an HOA.
I understand. They haven't reached out to us. I mean, we've certainly met with staff and met with some of y'all, so.
Okay. I certainly understand because that is already industrial down there. It is odd to me that it was zoned residential because I can't imagine too many people who would want to live that close
Yes, ma'am.
to the interstate. And possibly a big warehouse could even be a sound barrier for those residents in there. It could absorb some of the noise from the interstate as well. But I was concerned about possibly needing some type of fence in there just for safety.
Okay.
Okay.
They're saying okay.
Okay,
so.
that was all.
As long as I guess that can be maybe constructed up closer to where the edge of the property is to try to keep people from coming across.
others? Question?
Chairman Adams, there may be residents on the call tonight.
I have them,
They are
ma'am.
not.
I have them, Dr. Bradley. I have them.
Oh, okay.
When we get to the public input, I'll
Okay,
cover
all right.
that.
So they may be able to make arrangements to meet with the developer.
I did have a question, and I voiced this concern with staff, and it's just a question concerning your development plan that's far down the road. But
Yes, sir.
it seemed odd to me that you would have, I believe, if this does show an existing stream on the property, then you would have setbacks from the stream. How would you anticipate you're going to run your runoff from your parking lot into your retention pond when it's on the other side of the stream? That seems rather odd to me. If there's anyone in the group that would like to answer that, just as a preliminary question.
I actually have one of the principals here that hopefully can answer that question.
And then we will
Did
get to.
you fill out one of the, Mr. Austin Brannon, who will.
Good evening, sir. If you give us your name and address for the record.
Hello, sure. My name's Austin Brannon with Euphoric Development, and I live at 829 Gordon's Drive, Atlanta, Georgia. So my understanding from our engineers, Paulson Mitchell, who we've done other projects with, I'm currently working on a project in Cobb County over off Thornton Road. With the elevations we have, we're able to get a permit. We actually get the detention pond on the other side of that creek. We've got to have an overpassing to be able to access the detention pond. So we'll have to go through the Army Corps of Engineers to get a permit to be able to run stormwater piping to be able to hit
Okay.
the elevation
I just wanted,
there.
it just seemed rather odd to me, but if you're working with the Army Corps of Engineers on that, that's fine. I just was just curious more than anything if that was an oversight, and obviously it's not. You've all already handled that. Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
If there are no other questions that Council or Madam Mayor has, then I will open the floor for those that may be here in person, but I'm going to start with one that we have on the line. I understand a person that opposes, Ms. Shayla Johnson. She is no longer. She is present, okay. Ms. Johnson, we would invite you to start if you'd like. Since you're here in person, I was not aware it was virtual. I'm sorry. Ma'am, you'll be speaking to us.
I understand,
Okay.
but that way, because I know we're in the essence of time, that's the only reason I said that.
Could you give us your name and address for the record? And
Shayla
please,
Johnson, 5481 Summer Mill Road.
do you mind taking your mask off so we can understand you? Thank you.
5481 Summer Mill Road, Shayla Johnson.
Thank you.
I was just asking that, you know, in the essence of time, those that are here from Somerset can just come on up, and we can just kind of do
Okay.
it all at the same time.
Not a problem.
So is that okay with the
Sure,
council?
as long as they have signed in and as long as they're willing to stand and speak and give us their
Can you
name and
hold
address
that,
for the
please?
record, we'd welcome that.
Okay, they want me to speak, okay. All right, so I am one of the residents that would be directly affected by this warehouse because it directly comes behind my house. I already hear I-20 as it is. We have the natural buffer, so it's not too loud, it's not intrusive, but at the same time, if you're adding a warehouse, I'm thinking of hearing beep, 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 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, as we've already stated. And also just people say, hey, what's going on? Throw this over here. A lot of different just internal noise that we'll be able to hear on our side. So it's not a lot of room right there that I feel that there will be enough to be a buffer. We already have the natural buffer, but that's just, when you're cutting down the trees, then you're also inviting different animals. We already seeing deers in our subdivision, so it's gonna be bringing different wildlife into our subdivision as well. So just wanted to make sure that, he's saying that he didn't want us to reach out. We didn't really even know till we received the letter. So at this point, we will be willing, as the homeowners that have already reached out, to meet with him. So if there's time to allow for that, we would love to have a conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Others that would be here to speak in opposition, please come forward. Do we have anyone that would speak in support of the application? The applicant has spoken. Anyone else?
Yes, please.
My name's Matt Bentley, 1119 Drewsbury Court, Smyrna, Georgia. I'm also with Euphoric Development. And I just wanted to first off say we're happy to discuss anything that they would like to discuss. The other thing that I think is important to just kind of make sure that they fully understand is this is as mentioned before, a commercial and industrial road. There's no residential that comes off the road. And as far as the buffer is concerned, not only do you have a 100-foot buffer from the residential there, you also have what will be roughly a 35-foot building that will be 250 feet deep before you hit a vast majority of any of the truck parking and any of the noise. So not only are you talking about a 100-foot buffer, a potential fence, vegetation, but you're also talking about a 35-foot building that will be 250 feet deep that will protect them from that noise. That's very rare to have nearly 350 feet before you get to any noise, before you get to anything that's going to impact that neighborhood.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that input. Any others? Is there anyone else here to speak? Okay. I would encourage both those that are in opposition and the potential developer on this site to reach out to one another, maybe see if staff can help you to connect and see if you can come to some agreement as to at least hearing their concerns. Normally, I've got to say it, gentlemen, normally the developer would reach out to the homeowners association and to the homeowners in trying to get information out to them and to provide them with answers to their questions, even between meetings or prior to this meeting. Obviously, you've not been introduced to them, so I would hope that staff would be able to help you there. I would have a question or at least a comment, and I want us to consider this. We mentioned fencing, and I want us to be very careful in this. Ms. Miller had mentioned potentially a fence. I'm curious as to, of course, how much property will have to be disturbed before we condition this, if we do, with a fence. How much property is going to have to be disturbed in order to get to that fence? How much is going to have to be disturbed in order to install that fence? I know that we have in the past years gotten in situations where we required a fence, and then we were almost really wished that we had not because of what had to be done in order to get that fence there. Okay, so I guess my question there, or my comment there would be, would it be better to have that additional space left in a natural buffer of woods, or do you take down a certain amount of woods in order to put up a fence, or require a fence to be put in place? Which is the better buffer?
Yeah.
Okay, that's my only comment and question there, because from a developer standpoint, it's a lot of work in it. From a resident standpoint, they may prefer to have the trees than they do potentially a fence that may have trees fall on it, have to be constantly repaired, maintained, and looked upon by those neighbors also. So I just throw that out only because of our experience in the past with requiring fences. Okay?
Makes a lot of sense.
Any other comment or question?
Yes, Chairman Adams,
Yes.
I just want to echo what you stated about the residents and the developer getting
Yes.
together. We have had really great success
Yes.
with our developers meeting with the residents. I think it would be a win-win for both of you if you can meet and talk.
Thank you, Dr. Berdanley. That's great, and I appreciate you saying that, because we have had a lot of success in doing that of late. If there's no one else here to speak concerning this, anything else the applicant would like to say? Do we still have time, Madam Clerk?
We have no more time for speakers.
Okay. Then we will close this portion of the public hearing, and we will come back to it on Monday, and we appreciate you all coming in.
Thank you.
Item D, consider a petition to annex 1.67 acres at 800 Maxim Road in land lot 522, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 3, application by Daniel J. Tolman. Ms. Williams?
Patrice Williams, Community Development Director. Both item D and E are together. The first one is the annexation. The applicant is requesting to annex 1.67 acres at 800 Maxim Road and to rezone the property from office institutional with conditions county to general commercial district city. The surrounding land uses are PUD to the north, west and south, which are in the county, and LI to the east in the city. The land was originally dedicated for a fire station. The applicant's narrative states that the proposed development would be for a liquor store. The current property is undeveloped. There are no other liquor stores within 2,500 feet of the proposed development. I do have the applicants with me.
Okay. Would the applicant like to make a statement? Please come forward.
Evening, one. Joe Fowler, Post Office Box 49, Douglasville. Let me introduce Mr. Arpit Patel, who is the applicant for this zoning request. Got a recommendation of approval from P&Z. As you heard, it's an application both annexation and rezoning. It's 1.6718 acres, 800 Maxim Road. The purpose of the rezoning is for alcohol sales. They'll construct a building of 8,750 square feet. The property is currently owned by Dr. Daniel Tolman, who's a doctor in the community who bought the land on December the 19th, 2007 from the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. The property had been deeded to the county in 1999 by Industrial Developments International, that's IDI, who was developing the industrial park in which this 1.6 acres is located. That property had been donated to the county by IDI at that time for the purpose, as Patrice mentioned, to develop a fire station. 8 years later, the Board of Commissioners decided that the fire station needed to be put at a different location, so it was placed up on South Sweetwater Road in Lithia, just up from the Ace Hardware over there. So, since 2007, the property has been zoned commercially. It's been available for sale, but no activity whatsoever. It's actually, as you know, bounded on the north across Skyview by an industrial building of 312,000 square feet on 19 acres. On the east by an industrial building of 284,000 square feet on 15 acres. On the west by an industrial building of 222,000 square feet on 11 acres. In fact, within a quarter of a mile of this 1.6 acres, there are 11 industrial buildings counting the 4 that I just mentioned. And there's another industrial building just to the east that the council recently approved. The property appears to be suitable for a commercial use. The staff has recommended approval. In fact, the staff found that the, and I'm quoting, rezoning of the subject property to general commercial will not have an impact on the area. In fact, the staff noted that the rezoning will be an enhancement to the area. The applicant's here if you got any questions. That's our presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler.
Thank you.
Anyone have questions? Yes, Coach Watts.
Yes, sir. Mr. Fowler or whoever can answer this, why the annexation? Why could they not, why do they have to be annexed to develop it the way they want to develop it and not develop it in the county?
The sales proposed are not permitted in the county.
I'm sorry?
The sales proposed are not permitted in the county.
Right. No
County.
alcohol in the county.
So retail package of liquor is not allowed in the county.
County.
It must be in the city.
Okay. And just for the sake of discussion, how many liquor stores do we now have in the city limits? Okay, we could talk, bring that up Monday. Yes. Okay. So the county says no as far as this type of development.
It's not
I see.
allowable. Are you looking for just specifically package stores, Councilman Watts?
I was just curious. Yes, ma'am. So anyway, that's all I had, Mr. Chair.
Others? Yes, Madam Mayor, go ahead.
Oh, thank
Go
you
ahead.
so much, Mr. Chairman. It was kind of in the same line of questions that Councilman Watts asked. And I understand you want to move into the city because the county doesn't allow what you want to sell. So the area, Ms. Patrice, you did say it was 25 feet or how many?
That's required. It has to be 2,500 feet away from the nearest or from the next liquor store.
Aren't there service stations with food marts near that area that sell alcohol?
Grocery store, so there are other areas within that area, but it's 2,500 feet. I don't think further right in.
Thank you so much. You can come forward and give your name and address for the record. It's good to see you,
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Anderson.
Brian Anderson, 6701 Church Street. The code states that it has to be a minimum of 2,500 feet from the next liquor store. A convenience store really doesn't count. They don't sell liquor. And the closest liquor store to that location is like 0.8 of a mile.
Beer and wine isn't liquor. That's not
No, ma'am.
They are
It's
different.
not considered hard liquor.
spirituous.
Yeah, spirits, yeah. So they met the minimum requirements for a liquor store at that location.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. I think Dr. LaShawn Burdanley was next.
Yes, is the location, I'm looking at Skyview, is it on the side where Mercer University used to be, the building? Or is it on the other side where Walgreens and I think Crystal's, Popeyes?
Exit I-20, go north on Thornton Road, turn left onto Skyview, and it's on the
Right there,
left.
okay.
Just beyond the old, almost 400,000 square foot Nioxin building. Where Skyview comes around,
Yes,
it intersects there.
right, okay. Yeah, I think that was Mercer, it's no longer on that side, thank you. Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Davis.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm asking Ms. Fowler, would it be like a little strip, would anything else be housed in that?
Just a single building.
Just single, okay. Right there off Skyview? It's good place.
Mr. Davis, actually, it's on the corner of Maxim and Skyview. And there's a red light there. I believe there is a red light there, a traffic
I
signal
know
there.
exactly where it's located.
Yes. It's the only corner that's not really occupied. Anyone else? Questions, comments? Okay. Thank you all. We will take up the next item. I'm assuming you'll stay in place. Item E, hold a public hearing and consider a request for a change in zoning from OIC Office Institutional with conditions in the county to GC General Commercial District City for 1.67 acres, 800 Maxim Road, land lot 522, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 3, application by Arpit Kumar Patel, and I apologize for the pronunciation. Ms. Williams?
All right, Joe just left, but that is his item as well, so this is the rezoning. We pretty much covered it.
Okay. So Joe was representing, Mr. Fowler was representing the applicant. Is there anyone else here that would want to speak? Okay. Did the applicant want to have something to say or have something, comment about the application?
No, so nothing else to add with respect to that. My presentation was both for the annexation and the rezoning.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Are there any questions or comments of council or mayor further?
Well, I'll
Yes,
just piggyback on what I said before. You know, I'm just, you know, I know we have a number of liquor stores within the city limits, and the county does not allow package sale. And, you know, I don't understand that totally, but that's what they've got set up, and so I would be interested to see just how many package stores. And I understand the 2,500 feet. I'm assuming there's no churches or schools anywhere near that particular corner. I'm trying to picture it, I can't, but anyway, just be interested in the information, more information on Monday. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. This being a public hearing, I need to give opportunity for anyone to speak either for or against. So if there is someone here that would like to do that in person, we do not have anyone on virtual, correct, Ms. Jackson? Okay. Good evening, Mr. Siegel.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Richard Siegel, 9905 Ashford Greenway. I stand before you to speak in favor of this application. It meets all of the requirements in your ordinances, nowhere near any schools or churches or even residential. It's a little island surrounded by industrial buildings. It's great use for it. You're not going to have an office building there. You're not going to have a fire station there. It meets the distance requirement from the closest package store. As the population grows, your market grows. Population is growing. Your ordinance does not restrict the number of package stores in the city. Your ordinance does not say so many package stores per population. Those would be obstructive to free enterprise. So it's a good thing that it's not in there. This is a great use for this. You're not going to have pedestrians walking by on their way to church or on their way to school either. So it's isolated industrial. You know, there's not a lot of uses you can put there. You just got trees right now. So I'm in favor of this. And in terms of the county, all counties started off default as dry in the state of Georgia. The state differentiates between beer, what they call malt beverages, wine, and spirituous liquor. 3 different categories. They've got different sections of code. Even your ordinance has 3 different sections on them. In order for a county to become wet, they have to have a referendum. The county of Douglas has never had a referendum, as far as I know, for package stores. To get on the ballot, it would require petition signatures of up to 35. It would be 35% of the registered voters would have to get that. Actually, I take that back. Last week, the governor signed a bill. Now it's only 20% petition. That's still impossible. But there was another part of that bill that allows them, at their own initiative, the Board of Commissioners can put it on the ballot. So if that happens and the people of Douglas County pass it, you will see no more applications for annexations for package stores because they'll be able to do it in the county. And there's a lot of territory in the county where they can put it. It's a much bigger county than it is, 200 square miles. So you may see an end to that. When the Board of Commissioners discuss, I don't see a timer up there. When the Board of Commissioners discussed this application, they even said, why can't we have it in the county? Why does it have to go into the city? So it's a thing that a lot of people don't realize, don't understand. It'll probably be on the ballot next year. So yes, summing that up, I am in favor of this application. So thank you for your consideration. And if you have any questions, you want to talk to me about this after the meeting, it is a topic that I'm well versed in. So bid you good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Siegel. Others? Anyone else here to speak?
Spoken like a former council member.
Anyone else would like to speak either for or against this item? Please come forward. If not, I will close the public hearing then on item E, and we'll take this up on Monday.
Okay.
We'll go to item F. Consider a petition to annex 1.17 acres at 991 Thornton Road, land lot 582, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 2. Application by Ashish Patel, Shadriha Patel, Ramhai Patel, and Rushpa Patel. Ms. Williams?
Okay, Patrice Williams, Community Development Director. Both F and G go together. I do have the applicants with us. They're going to do a presentation. The applicant is requesting to annex 1.17 acres at 991 Thornton Road and to rezone the property from heavy commercial county to general commercial district city. The surrounding land uses are CG to the north and west in the county, general commercial to the south in the city, and PUD to the east in the county. The purpose of this request is to develop a liquor store as well. The current property is undeveloped. There are no other liquor stores within 2,500 feet of the proposed development.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Would the applicant come forward and make their presentation, please?
Good evening. For the record, my name is Parcel for the law firm of Sams Larkin and Huff, 376 Powder Spring Street, Marietta, Georgia, 30064. And I represent the Patels in relation to the annexation and rezoning. And I'm going to combine the presentation and then separate out some of the issues. First off, I'd like to introduce Mr. Patel, their father and son. It's great to be able to represent a family business that they're working together as a family. And they all four owners live in Douglasville. They have three other businesses in Douglasville. They own some hotels in the city. And so they are city residents, business owners, and they own this property that sits at the intersection of Thornton Road and State Route 20. I-20. And so you all know the property I'm talking about. It's right next to the Burger King that's under redevelopment or remodeling right now. And so it's that last commercial parcel just before the interstate. It obviously has, one of the challenges is the fact that it has access issues. It's going to be limited by right in, right out. And so that's one of the challenges of what goes good at this location. It's an annexation for this property. The first question is, should it be in the city? And the answer is it's contiguous to the city. It is north of us is city also, so it makes sense that it should be in the city. The property is currently vacant. It's not producing any income for the city. Certainly it's not in the city, and minimal income for the county in terms of it doesn't have any use on it, doesn't have any employees, doesn't have any sales tax, any of that. So it'd be good to get this on the rolls, producing stuff for the area. It is in a regional activity center. It sits, aerial view showing the property and showing the proximity to the interstate and the Burger King, commercial zoning around. So the first question, annex, should it be in the city or not in the city? It should be in the city. So the next question is, what's the appropriate zoning for the property? It's currently zoned commercial. We're asking for a city commercial designation. I don't think there's any other zoning designation other than commercial that would work on this property. It's not industrial, it's not office, it's not residential. So the zoning request is consistent with what you would expect to see here. And the planning staff, your professional staff, reviewed the application and recommended approval because they went through the criteria that they are required to go through in determining that it fits with your land use plan. It's a good development for the area, and in general, it just makes sense. So your professional staff in reviewing it said, we recommend approval. It went to the Planning Commission, and I do have to say it was recommended for denial, but I think because they were looking at the next step, which is the proposed use as a package store. And I asked, that one thing I want, and to direct to your question is, yes, the county, and as the previous speaker spoke, the county does not allow spirituous liquors sell by package. So any package store in the county is going to be in the city. And so that's why we're asking to be annexed, is so that it can be developed as a package store. And one thing that I want you to consider in why that makes sense in this location is, one, you don't have any residential around it, you don't have any churches, you don't have any uses that would be in conflict with it. The other thing is that it is a use that doesn't have as much traffic. And one thing is, when you get real close to an interstate, sometimes you don't want a whole lot of traffic in and out.
So a package store actually, rather than a very busy fast food restaurant that might have a lot in and out, actually as a proximity to the interstate, having a use that's general retail, happens to be liquor, but it's general retail, makes sense in this location. We're talking about, a commercial building that you would expect to see here. Now, the state law has a distance, the state law manages how package stores are handled, and then you have your local jurisdictions. State law mandates that package stores can be no closer than 1,500 feet from each other. So that's package stores. That doesn't count beer and wine, just spirit is package. The state law is 1,500 feet. Your ordinance has chosen to make that bigger, and it's 2,500 feet. I think your question is, should we look at other, is there other issues that we look at? Well, you've already looked at it one time, and you've decided the state law wasn't quite strict enough. So we've mandate that it's 2,500 feet. I just wanted this visual to affirm to you that the distance between these two, the previous application and this application, is much, much greater than the 2,500 feet. And it is also a different travel corridor. And in general, governments do not like to pick winners and losers and let the market decide that, who provides the best customer service, who provides the best location for their travel routes that they can get to, and those things. So this more than exceeds your distance requirement. And the other thing I do want to just mention is that you're not being asked tonight or on Monday night to make a decision on whether a package store is or is not approved in this location. You're being asked of, should it be annexed and should it be zoned commercially? Everyone who comes forward with a package store has to go through your process, has to meet all these criteria. And just, for example, if a package store came in within 1,500 feet or 2,500 feet of this location between now and we came forward, they couldn't build it. It still has to meet your requirements. So you're not specifically asked to approve that. Just measured it just as the crow flies, just so you know that even as the crow flies, those distances are significant. This is the graphic that your staff prepared showing it. Again, your staff report did a really good job of explaining that the request is orderly and beneficial development. It will further the purpose of the comprehensive plan. And I know we live and die by the comprehensive plan. I hate when I've got an application that goes against a comprehensive plan because I have to come up with a lot stronger arguments, but it consistent with your comprehensive plan. And this is a retail corridor. So this general retail sales of products is what you would expect along this section of Thornton Road. And the zoning category is consistent. So we're actually zoning it from the CHC in the county to the GC in the city. And the staff, your professional staff that you pay to know how to handle zoning cases and understand these issues that come about, has recommended approval. Again, just going back to it's vacant, it's not doing anything for anybody right here. You got 4 people who live in the city, who've got 3 successful businesses in the city, would like to have a 4th business in the city also. And this is the type of retail building that we're talking about. Again, it's a general retail building, single-use package store. So we ask that you approve this application on Monday night. I'm here to answer any questions you have. Mr. The Patels are here to also answer any questions you may have about the application. And I very much thank you for your time.
Thank you. Questions? Madam Mayor, do you have a question?
Yes, sir, I do. Thank you so much for the presentation, and we appreciate the Patels investing into the city of Douglasville and having businesses to help our economy to grow and to live in the community as well. I do have just a couple of concerns. I do understand the decision from the Planning Commission. It's just like you're getting engaged. You had to come before my father and ask. He presumed you were going to marry the person. So it's one thing that you're saying, but it really is in totality. It isn't just the general commercial and the annexation, but you want to have a package store there as well. And it just gives me pause for a package store to be on that corridor, because you're coming in off of I-20 on Thornton Road, you're greeted with the package store. When you're leaving on Thornton by Maxim, there's another package store that we just talked about. And this one is, next door to Burger King, Taco Bell, Home Depot, a pediatric around the corner. So I'm not certain the general commercial is great, but I'm not certain about this particular business, because there's a perception, you know, when you have just certain businesses that are all clumped together.
Yeah.
So we just like variety, that's all I'm saying. And then that seems like kind of a more of a restaurant, purchasing, like I said, Home Depot, medical offices, car dealerships, but not warehouses, enterprise rentals, but not a package store coming in and going out in the same stretch of the road. That's all the concerns I had.
Yeah, and I certainly appreciate those concerns, and I think a couple things is, number one is, that's why you have a 2,500-foot distance requirement, so that you aren't stacked on each other.
Yes,
and
sir.
These are removed on different routes. The one on Maxim Road's on Maxim Road, the further one up further on the right on Thornton Road. So they would be serving different traffic corridors. The other thing is I mean, the property's been vacant for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the challenges is one of the reasons why this use is being proposed here is the fact, I think if you put a really busy fast food restaurant in there, it might cause more of a headache, because of the congestion of in and out and the needs for left turn movements. Our customers will use this as a routine, and they will follow it where it's on their route. Obviously, they're going to have to turn right in and right out to go about their way. And so, but I think it could be considered a benefit that you don't have a high traffic business at this location. I think a lot of other businesses will require a medical office. They're going to want, medical office is fanatical about access, because a lot of their customers are sick or old, and they don't want to have to make, any different turning movement. So they want to know how to get there from all directions. And this is one that would be serving a customer base that they would build over time.
Okay. And the other last thing is, when you were saying that, it made me think about families and eating in those restaurants versus a package store where you have to be a certain age. So it's kind of a different clientele as well.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, it would be, serving people who live in the area, who travel this corridor, and, would be going in there, and it would, their belief is that they will have a customer base they build up over time, and it's customer service. That's how these businesses are successful. And that's the reason why I wanted to show you, this is they've engaged an architect to provide architectural renderings of different projects, and if the project moves forward, they'll pick it. But it's a general retail building.
Yes, sir.
And so if this use did not work, it could be repurposed to a different general commercial use.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Mr. Davis?
Yes, sir. That property, that's the property next to the Burger King, Taco Max, Taco Bell?
Yeah.
Okay, that traffic is truck traffic. That's a heavy traveling Thornton Road. Trucks up and down that road all the time.
Yep.
And have a hard time coming out of Burger King, getting on Thornton Road. So right there in that hole in there, that's going to be tough.
Yeah, they'll have to meet all the DOT requirements on building their driveway. It would be, if I could wave a magic wand, it'd be nice to have interparcel access and coordinated driveways. Unfortunately, this parcel doesn't have that. So, and again, I go back to that, really the kind of minimal traffic that this type of use could be considered an advantage for this type of use.
I don't know. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to make sure I understood. Also, the property seems to be an island. There's no actual city property touching it. So I guess the contiguity is based on the city property across the interstate, is that true?
Correct. Yes, it is. And I do, I mean, one of the things that if that was our only contiguity, only proximity, but the city, as the previous case shows, the city also wraps around north and comes back. So, I mean, the city's all around it. But yes, you're right. Our direct contiguity is across the interstate to the south.
Thank you. That's all, sir.
Mr. Estes?
And I'm having trouble locating it right now, but I seem to remember that this parcel has been not having any use for over 20 years.
Yes, that's my understanding. And my client recently purchased it, and the property's been for sale for a long time, and
So if there was some desire for a medical office facility or something else, there's been ample time to do that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comment? I'm going to move along here. We have spent a lot of time. Any other question, comment? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
We will move to the next item, which is connected, and we'll take this up on Monday. Item G, hold a public hearing for change in zoning from CH Heavy Commercial County to GC General Commercial District City for 1.17 acres at 991 Thornton Road, land lot 582, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 2, application by Ashish Patel. Ms. Williams?
Patrice Williams, this is just the rezoning item that we have to have the public hearing for tonight as well.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Williams. Does the applicant have anything to add to new information, please? Not repetitive. No. Thank you. I'll open the public hearing. Are there questions or comments that the council or Madam Mayor may have in addition to those that we have asked? Is there anyone here that would speak either for or against the application? Please come forward and identify yourself for us. Seeing none, we'll close that portion of the public hearing. You all understand the issues at hand, and we will take this up on Monday. Okay? Thank you all. Appreciate it very much. We'll move on to item H. Hold a public hearing and consider a request for change in zoning from GC General Commercial District and PRD Planned Residential Development District to PRD Planned Residential Development District for 6.04 acres on Deer Lee Lane, land lot 50, District 1, Section 5, Parcel 72 and 120. Application by Mr. P.J. Hornick, Southport Financial Real Estate, LLC. Ms. Williams.
Oops, I'm so sorry. I don't have my notes in front of me.
All right.
There we go. All right. The applicant is requesting to rezone from general commercial and planned residential district to planned resident development district. The subject properties are 2 lots that are 4.95 acres and 1.09 acres. The applicant has also requested a right-of-way abandonment from the city for 0.039 acres. A portion of the subject property was recently rezoned from general commercial to planned residential development. This parcel is the 4% that we discussed earlier. The applicant proposes an affordable retirement community for seniors age 55 and plus. The property is currently undeveloped and is surrounded by commercial, light industrial, and multifamily residential. The applicant is proposing a 119-unit residential development that consists of 1 3-story multifamily apartment building. The site plan shows a gated entry and open green space to the west corner. The 4.95-acre parcel 120 site and the excess right-of-way have not been developed. The parcel 0072 has been a single-family residence since 1961, and it has been vacant for a number of years.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Applicant, please come forward if you'd like to make opening comments. How are you, Mr. Hornick?
Hi, I'm P.J. Hornick with Southport Financial Real Estate, 5403 West Gray Street, Tampa, Florida, 33609. Well, thank you for having me again here tonight. I'm pleased to present our updated plan for the senior multifamily development at Deer Lee Lane. Tonight, I'm going to cover a similar agenda as we did last time around, which was last July, for the parcel that we've already zoned for 98 units. And really focus on the technical updates that we're working on for the updated plan. With that, I'll reintroduce Southport as the developer and long-term owner here, speak a little bit about our previous developments, visit the site location and why it's ideal for this use, and then conclude with any questions or comments you folks may have. So Southport, we are an experienced multifamily developer. Our principal, David Page, has been in real estate since the mid-'70s. He founded Southport in the mid-'90s, and we've since grown into an integrated full-service real estate firm focused on development, construction, and then long-term property management. We have about 20,000 units nationally, 200 properties with several in Georgia, Dalton, Athens, St. Mary's, and Tifton. You could feel free to visit our website, and it'll show up-to-date developments that we have in process, which is about 10 currently. Some of the featured developments I'd like to call your attention to is Pembroke Towers, which we're planning New construction, 88 units for seniors in South Florida. Laburnum Gardens was a family ground-up development that we completed last year outside Tampa. Brookstone is 108 units of senior that we did in Tallahassee, Florida, with the same architect, Mike Riley, that we have engaged on this proposed development. And then Burlington Senior was a property we completed in downtown St. Pete in 2010. So to the site location, again, it's ideally located because it's infill suburban development, and you've got plenty of amenities nearby that really make it ideal. Most importantly, the senior center, Woody Fight, directly to the south of us. We're on Durley Lane, south of 92, north of Doris Road. So we would abut to the multifamily directly behind to the west. Again, the south is the Woody Fight Senior Center. Across the street from that is the Park and Ride. And then north of that is general commercial, including a pharmacy and a planned grocery store. So this is the previous plan that is currently approved on the approximately 5 acres for 98 units. And really the nexus of what the updated plan is feedback from both the staff and then the general review of this proposal, which is, if you could see to the northeast corner of the site, there's that notch out of the property, and then the building is oriented somewhat awkwardly against Early Lane. So with the assemblage, what we've done is brought in the corner site and then turned the building to orient along Early Lane. So it really does enhance the site itself and then also the block by getting rid of these 1960s built single-family home that's currently there. And with that, I would conclude and open the floor up for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hornick. Madam Mayor, questions?
I did have a quick question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much for presenting, Mr. Horton. I think we talked about a walking trail or something from your facility to Woody Fight. Is that proposed in here? Or are you not talking about that right now? You're just talking about the facility?
Well, we're happy to talk about it. I mean, that's an amenity we would propose, and if you could see there, the old plan has it, but really, if you see that pedestrian path out to the sidewalk, we would come out on the southeast corner of the site, go down the sidewalk, and then propose a pedestrian path up to the Woody Fight Center. So it's...
And this is the 4%, correct, Ms. Patrice, that we talked about earlier? And the amenities. What were the amenities?
So we currently have planned a gazebo, an outdoor activity center, a garden, and then indoor we would have a community room and a kitchen area. And then walking trail, the nature walking trail.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much. That's all I have.
Sure. Others? Yes, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to say I appreciate what you did with the site plan. I like that you brought it up to the street like the way you did. You got rid of that crank. That made a lot more sense, a lot more logic. I would like to move on now to my architectural critique. I do have a question, actually, again, for staff. There was an issue that came up on the senior housing that was approved on Douglas Boulevard, and the issue was maximum height of the parapet based on the size of the ladder on the fire truck, which was what, 32 feet?
It's 30.
37, okay.
30.
30, okay. Our ordinance allows for 50 feet maximum height for buildings in downtown. Why do we do that if there's an issue with the ladder size out there?
It's not an issue.
There's not an issue with the ladder size. I met with the county administrator yesterday. We're going to be working together with the fire department on some ordinances that we have to require to allow for that, but the county actually has the largest serving ladder truck that they offer, so it's not the truck.
So it isn't the truck? So
No.
So we made them run around in circles for nothing?
Yeah, it's not the truck.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's also the size of the parcel, how
Yeah.
much they're willing to dedicate street and how close the street, the road is actually to the building, because you need more ladder space for higher buildings, so
Right.
that means for taller buildings, so that means the road has to come over some.
So in the downtown, which actually has narrower streets, it's actually the opposite of that, though, because you don't have that room for it, so, okay. Yeah, anyway, so, yeah, so, I don't know if you heard any, or you go back and look at the record of our discussion that we had on the other senior housing. I think if you take some of that into account, I'm gonna bang the same drum I do every time. I'm looking for, as sophisticated design as we can, and make it as good as possible. I'd like to see a little less lap siding, more permanent looking materials. I like that you got the facades broken up, give it a little bit more individuality, but please try to take that into account, because you've got some other properties that you show that are actually much better looking than what you're showing on ours. So take that into account. And I'll be happy to meet with you to discuss it as you want.
Thank you.
Okay. That's all, Mr. Chair. Thanks.
Anyone else?
Yes, let me get mine in before Mayor Pro Tem has another question.
Thank you.
You missed it. I just have two questions. And I know we haven't discussed this since last July, your age requirement is 55?
55.
Is that, so if you have a married couple and one is 55 and one is younger, they both can still move in there, right?
Correct.
Good answer. The other one is,
Dr. Bernally, do I get the idea that possibly
I might. You never know, I may. I'm just thinking. I forgot I had a brain freeze maybe in a few minutes.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Got it. Your timeline. Do you have the timeline?
We'd love to break ground next summer. I mean, unfortunately, it takes a while to get things out of the ground, but that's the plan. We're trying to close by the end of the year on the land and then move forward from there.
Okay, all right, thank you. No other questions?
Other questions of council? This being a public hearing, we do need to give opportunity to anyone that would like to come and speak. I don't see that we have anyone online to speak on this item. So is there anyone here present tonight to speak either for or against this item? Please come forward, and I'm going to have a question when we finish that. Anyone? Okay, then we'll close that portion of the public hearing. I do have a question, Mr. Hornick. You've increased the size by the amount of property that you have now assembled there, that being the brick home, the little corner there. I think you said the northeast corner. And you were approved before this addition in property for how many units on how many acres?
It was 98 units on 4.95 acres, and this is 119 units on approximately 6 acres.
Okay, so you're going up a little over an acre, 1.1, and you're going up 21 units?
21 units.
Okay, okay, so I wanted to make sure that was clarified. As far as any other question, I don't have any others. Is there anyone else before we close this out and go on to the next item that we would need to ask Mr. Hornick? Mr. Hornick, do you have anything else to say?
No, thanks for having us.
Okay, thank you for your patience. We appreciate y'all coming in, and we'll take this up on Monday night.
All right.
Thank you very much. Item I. Hold a public hearing and consider a request for a variance to reduce the required 75-foot billboard setback requirement from all buildings, structures, and property lines in section 7.086B of the Unified Development Code, Unified Development Ordinance, for a variance of 35.4 feet for a remaining requirement of 39.6 feet on the east side of a lot, and for a variance of 3 feet for a remaining requirement of 72 feet on the west side of a lot of 1.34 acres at 9415 Highway 5, Land Lot 160, District 2, Section 5, Parcel 2. Application by SK Georgia Partners, LLC. Ms. Williams?
Patrice Williams, Community Development Director. The applicant is looking to do requesting a variance to add a cooler and canopy at this location. Currently, the location is a commercial plaza with a Little Caesars and other businesses. The applicant would like to return the location to a gas station. You're familiar with it. It's at that corner of Highway 5 and I-20, at that corner.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. I understand that the applicant is with us virtually. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, he is.
Okay. If the applicant would like to address us now, give us your name and address for the record. I believe it's Mr. Robert Cohn.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome, Mr. Cohn. Hello, Mr. Cohn, are you there?
He's on mute.
I'm sorry?
He's on mute.
He's on mute. He needs to unmute.
Can you hear me?
We can, yes, sir. Give us your name and
Oh,
address.
yes. Good evening. Yes, this is Robert Cohen, Land Solution Associates. I'm representing the applicant on this case. It's pretty straightforward. I think that the information you have in front of you is sufficient. I don't need to regurgitate that but I'm here if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Cohn. Let me start by asking a question or making sure that I understand. Folks, we're on page 16 of 19 in our packet.
Okay.
And it is rather confusing to me. I want to make sure that we are all on the same line. There is a cooler on the back of the property that's freestanding. There is also a strip center with Little Caesars, auto emissions testing facility, and something else there. I don't remember exactly what. Sits right next to I-20 at the Highway 5 exit as you come off coming south. This was previously a convenience store with gas pumps many years ago, and this, I understand that this billboard, that's part of what we're needing a variance for, or they're needing a variance for, was existing during that time. So basically it's been changed away from a convenience store with a canopy to a small strip center, and Mr. Cohn's representing the person that would like to go back to that old plan. Very confusing because what we're looking for is a variance away from that billboard. Is that correct, Mr. Cohn?
That is correct. Yes, the building's existing and the billboard's existing. And the only reason it's an issue is because we're coming back in to put the gas canopy back in. So under the current ordinance, the setback for the billboard has an encroachment.
Yes, sir. Okay. Questions, comments? I'll ask it. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are the gas tank, or the underground tanks still there, or are they
No,
being reused,
no.
or are they being reinstalled?
Mr. Cohn, did
They
you
are
hear that
not
question?
there. They are not there. They've been removed, and so there'll be a new gas containment facility underneath the ground.
So they'll be, okay, thank you, that's all.
Yes, Mr. Davis?
Mark, you may remember the same owner of the property right at Burger King on Thornton Road. That's where they, man, that's a good memory, Mark.
Yes, sir. We discussed that in our staff, in our history lesson earlier this week, I guess you'd say. At my age, it becomes a history lesson for our staff who haven't been around near as long. Any other question or comment? I might add, and I did ask staff this, Ms. Williams, can you address the fact that in the previous use, when it was a convenience store with a canopy and gas pumps, there was a variance that was required, and this site was under a variance for that billboard at that time, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
This has been grandfathered.
Okay, okay. No other questions or comments, then we need to open the public hearing to see if there's anyone present that would speak either on behalf of this application or against the application. Is there anyone present? Seeing none, then we will close the public hearing. Mr. Cohn, we appreciate you joining us. We appreciate your patience, and we will take this item up on Monday. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to item J. Consider a request for approval of a development plan for Lowe's tool rental for 16.13 acres at 7001 Douglas Boulevard in Land Lot 160, District 2, Section 5, Parcel 95, for plans dated April 9th, 2021. Application by Lowe's Home Centers, LLC. Ms. Williams?
All right, Patrice Williams, the applicant, is with us virtually tonight. The applicant, Lowe's Home Center Incorporated, is seeking redevelopment of a non-residential project per City of Douglasville UDO Section 10.07. The proposal currently depicts an expansion of an existing commercial facility. The 3,107 square feet addition would serve as a tool rental facility for the Lowe's Home Centers. The applicant proposes use of CMU to match the existing facade of the development. Staff recommends approval of this development plan.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. I understand that the applicant, Todd Simmons, is with us by phone. Mr. Simmons?
Yes, sir.
Could you give us your name and address for the record, sir? And we'd love your presentation to be heard.
Yes, sir. Appreciate the time. My name is Todd Simmons. I'm at 209 West Stone Avenue in Greenville, South Carolina. Company is Freeland and Kaufman. We are the civil engineers working with the applicant Lowe's Home Centers on this request. Really, I think pretty straightforward request. Lowe's been there in Douglasville for a while. They're looking at adding kind of a new component to their selection. So it'll be a tool rental facility kind of attached to, so about a 3,000 square foot attachment to the existing Lowe's Home Centers there. About a 1,500 square foot kind of staging caged area behind. But as Ms. Williams indicated, the architecture to match what's there. But really happy to answer any questions you all might have.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Questions? Council, Madam Mayor? Mr. Simmons, it appears from the renderings in the proposal that this would sit, if you're standing in front of the Lowe's looking at it, this would sit to the left side as an addition on existing property that's just outside the indoor lumberyard entrance, correct?
That is correct, yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Questions, comments of anyone? Make sure that we give everyone the opportunity. Okay, if there are none, then we appreciate your patience tonight on the phone, and we'll take this up on Monday. We thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item K. Consider a request for approval of a development plan for I-20 West Business Center for 26.42 acres on Blair's Bridge Road in Land Lot 617, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 6, Land Lot 581, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 2, and Land Lot 616, District 18, Section 2, Parcels 1 and 2, for plans dated April 15th, 2021. Application by East Group Properties LP, care of Mr. John Ratliff. Ms. Williams?
Patrice Williams, Community Development Director. The proposal currently depicts a rear load distribution center warehouse, an allowable use in the light industrial zoning district. The proposed building is 154,730 square feet. Inside area is 26.75 acres. The site will have approximately 50 truck loading spaces. The development will have 2 access points off of Blair's Bridge Road, 1 entrance and exit for automobiles and trucks, and 1 gated exit for automobiles and trucks. The exterior elevations indicate painted tilt-up concrete, glass storefronts, and metal canopies. Staff recommends approval for this development plan.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. I will preface any other question or comment to make sure that you all have vetted this, and it is within the development, it's within the requirements of the facade ordinance. And I just want to make sure that rather than ask it on the end. Questions, comments? You've heard the information. There are pictures and renderings online for us. No question or comment? Thank you, Ms. Williams. We'll go on to the next item then. Item L. Consider request for approval of a development plan for Arbor Place storage for 3.2 acres at 4959 and 4989 Reservoir Drive, Land Lot 23, District 1, Section 5, Parcel 12, and Land Lot 24, District 1, Section 5, Parcel 16, for plans dated April 1st, 2021, application by J. Michael Bell, a Devco Corporation. Ms. Williams.
Patrice Williams. The proposal currently depicts an indoor storage facility and allowable use in the general commercial zoning district. The proposed building footprint is 36,231 square feet, and the total building area is 108,693 square feet. The development will have 2 access points, right in, right out on Arbor Place Boulevard, and a 1 entrance and exit on Reservoir Drive. The exterior elevations indicate EFIS, bricks, and glass. The city staff has reviewed the application and attachments and has determined that the proposed plans meet development requirements of the UDL. Staff recommends approval for this development plan.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. The applicant is here. Is there anything that the applicant would like to say concerning this item? Please come forward, sir, and give us your name and address for the record.
Michael Bell. I'm with the Devco Corporation, 400 Northridge Road, Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm here to just answer any questions you might have or issues that you see.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that, Mr. Bell. I assume, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, we will give you the floor. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Unless I'm mistaken, is the design is very different than what you showed us the first time. Is that, am I thinking of a different project?
Well, it's a different building material. I mean, it's brick. It's the same building materials. It's just got a little more modern look to it.
A little more? Okay. What I would actually like to do is I would like to see the 2 designs side by side, if we can forward that to staff and.
Sure.
So we can look at those.
Okay.
You know, again, this goes back to what I was saying, to several other applicants. I mean, we're trying to raise the bar, and you're putting this next to a brand-new residential neighborhood that we just approved, and I think you're going to have a hard time selling this to the current residents and the future residents based on what you're presenting here. So if we can see.
Sure.
What
Yeah.
the previous.
Like I
looked
said,
like.
it's still brick and,
Well, there's some brick there. I'm seeing a lot of ephes, I'm seeing a lot of plank material.
it's just different colors is really, it's the same material as the other facility. It's just got a little bit different design to it.
I do know how to read an architectural drawing, I'll tell you that. And this,
But I'll be glad to forward, the
Yeah.
other information to you.
yeah, I would appreciate that. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Yeah.
That's all I have for now, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions or comments concerning this? Ms. Williams has given us the information. There is on page A4, which is 7, page 10, there are elevations as to west, south, east, and north as to percentages. I'm assuming that all of this does meet the facade standards as we have required. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Madam Mayor, go ahead.
10 of 10, this is the final product?
Page 7 of 10.
Oh, okay.
I was just saying, that's just a requirement as far as facades.
Yes, sir.
Page 10 of 10 would be, appears to be a rendering. Pages 9 and 8.
Is 10 of 10 the final product? You propose how it looks?
Mr. Bell, can you answer that? Page 10 of 10 is a rendering?
I don't have that.
It's 3 stories. It's a corner.
Yes.
Yes.
It has glass and.
Yes.
Yes, that is.
Yes, that is
That's
correct.
the proposed.
Okay. Did that change much from before?
It seemed to. I think the glass is wrapped around a little bit more. I remember the brick seemed to wrap more. It was much more, it looked more like an office building than a storage facility, whereas this one just tended to look a bit more like a storage facility.
With all
looks
due
nice.
respect, Mr. Miller, let's cut to the chase. We had a rezoning for the development with a rendering. Now we have a development plan that the applicant has said that they would bring forward to us so that we could compare the rendering
It looks
with the development plan to come up with whether or not that is something that we really would approve. And so that's the process of this meeting tonight and Monday, which would be the time when we would take that up for a vote, okay? Just in the essence of time, that's all.
I'm with you on that,
Okay?
Mr. Chair.
Okay,
Everyone else?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll take that up on Monday. Item M, consider request for approval of development plan for Greystar Preston Boulevard for 41.32 acres at Preston Boulevard and Bob Arnold, land lot 678, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 10, land lot 677, District 18, Section 2, Parcels 2 and 5, and land lot 709, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 2, for plans dated January 5th, 2021, application by Greystar Development East LLC. Ms. Williams.
Okay, Patrice Williams, Community Development Director. This item's come before you before. There have been some changes. The proposed project is a multifamily apartment development on March 17, 2020. City Council approved a request for development plan approval for LMC Lennar at Preston Boulevard and Bob Arnold. On January the 11th, 2021, the current applicant, Greystar Development East, proposed a slightly modified site plan and elevations for the project, which was then approved by Mayor and Council. An existing sewer easement owned by Cobb County runs across the property, preventing the developer from proceeding with the intended location of their stormwater management pond. As such, there has been a shift in the pond to the south, which has required the rearranging of parking spaces. The elevation, number of buildings, and number of units will remain the same. The proposed development plan shows a multifamily residential development with a density of 8.71 units per acre distributed between 14 buildings. The site plan indicates a total of 360 multifamily units with a leasing office, clubhouse, and pockets of green space throughout the development. The elevations depict usage of cementous lap siding, light colored brick, cementous board and batten, asphalt, shingles, and a standing seam metal roof. City staff has reviewed the application and attachments and it has determined that the proposed plans meet the development requirements of the UDO. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. I see Ms. Sellers here.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, council members Julie Sellers, 1776 Peachtree Street, Atlanta, Georgia, 30309. Here on behalf of Greystar. On the line with us, we have Rob Schusser with Greystar in case we have any questions for him. As Ms. Williams indicated, this was just recently approved by you all, and unfortunately, Cobb County would not grant any flexibility with any encroachment in their sewer easement. And so we just have a slight shift. As Patrice indicated, the number of units, buildings, things have pretty much stayed the same. If you look at the building the site plan, I would consider it page left. That's where the changes have occurred with just some slight modifications in the location of the parking. Happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Thank you, Ms. Sellers. Questions, comments? I think we are on pages 9 of 15 and 10 of 15, it appears, with the changes. And as Ms. Sellers has stated, I believe you mentioned, Ms. Sellers, there are no difference in the number of parking spaces or the number of units.
The number of units have remained the same. We did request a slight reduction in the number of parking spaces, which is the administrative process that we have gone through.
Okay. Ms. Williams, is that within your administrative duty to look at that, and have you found that to be acceptable?
We're acceptable. It's
Okay.
acceptable, I should say.
Okay. Any question or comment? Anyone? Understand you have to work with all of the quasi-governmental and municipalities and counties and so forth. And so sometimes these things have to be brought back again. If there are no questions or comments, then we will take this up on Monday for approval of, or for consideration of that item. Okay? Thanks for your patience, Ms. Sellers. All right, item N. Consider a request for final plat approval for the purpose of subdividing into 10 lots, 43.5 acres at Riverside Parkway and Market Street in land lot 162, District 1, Section 5, parcels 1, 2, and 20 through 29. Application by Tributary Village LLC, care of Ms. Julie Sellers. Ms. Williams?
Okay, Patrice Williams. The plat will create parcels to allow some areas to be owned and maintained by the association, a tributary association, and separate parcels for the commercial uses in multifamily area. We have reviewed the attachments and have determined that the plat does meet the requirements of the UDO. Staff recommends approval. We do have Ms. Sellers with us, of course, to respond to any questions.
Okay, Ms. Sellers, did I hear you mention that Mr. Robert Sucher is also, I believe, on the line?
He was on the line for the Greystar application. This is switching gears to AHS for the tributary development.
Okay, I'm sorry, I had a note that he was on for item 240, and it's my fault. Okay, so go ahead, I'm sorry.
So this is the tributary redevelopment, which you all approved previously. You've also approved the development plan. This is simply the plat approval. Everything is consistent with what you have already approved. This is simply, I would say, a housekeeping administrative item to carve up the parcels for legal ownership for the multifamily, for the streets in the park to be maintained by the association, and for the commercial parcels. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Sellers. Questions, comments? We actually have a housekeeping item among all this tonight. If there are none, then Ms. Williams, you've said that this meets all the requirements that we have and everything is ready on the final plat. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Sellers. Again, appreciate your patience. We will look to see you on Monday. We'll move on to item O. Consider a request for proposed ordinance to amend 2.02C of the Unified Development Ordinance to allow breweries as a permitted use in the CBD Central Business District and as a special use in the RMP Regional Marketplace and GC General Commercial Districts. Application by the City of Douglasville. Ms. Patrice Williams.
Patrice Williams. We've been working on this item for a couple of months now. Nothing's changed since we all had conversations about it. Essentially, it allows breweries in the downtown. So the distance from churches and schools that's still in there, nothing's changed about that. But it just allows breweries to be open in the downtown area.
Okay. So we would allow breweries if we accepted this or approved this, but the distance requirements from schools and churches would remain just as it is at present.
Yes,
okay?
sir.
Okay. Questions, comments? Anyone? You all have gotten quiet all of a sudden. That may be a good thing.
This principal spanked us not too long ago, so we just have to be quiet.
So I actually have
Yes,
a
Ms.
question. So this covers a microbrewery that does the production and has a tasting area?
Let me defer to Lynn.
We don't actually make a differentiation as to the production amount, because for microbreweries, they typically have a definitional of how many barrels of malt beverages they produce on premises. I don't believe we have that requirement, but it would be for a manufacturer of malt beverages with a tap room.
And so it would have to be manufactured on site?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
In what other districts then are we, or is the city allowing breweries
So this
in
allows for
addition
the
to CBD now?
CBD, regional marketplace, and general commercial.
Okay, those are the other ones? So GC would also include the rest of downtown, basically, what we haven't included in the CBD.
Right.
That's still commercial. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure. Question, comments?
Other thing, it can be on Chapel Hill as well.
So as long as it's in general commercial.
It's like
And we have
hops.
general commercial on Chapel Hill Road.
Yeah, the city manager and I were talking about hops that used to be on Chapel
Do
Hill.
you
Road.
remember that location?
Yes, sir, that was.
Madam Mayor? Okay. Yes, we did have one there. Okay.
Also had one on Hospital Drive very briefly.
Okay. Nothing else?
That's all.
One more item. Consider a request for proposed ordinance to adopt a new City of Douglasville zoning map, application by the City of Douglasville. Ms. Williams?
Okay, Patrice Williams, this is a city-initiated item. It's been a couple of years since we adopted the UDO, whether you believe it or not, time flies. So we have rezoned and annexed quite a few parcels, about 41 and counting. And so it's time for us to update our map. And so we're asking you all to approve this map we submitted to you.
And basically, this would just be to then show anyone that wanted to look at the zoning map what each piece of property was now zoned after 2 years of rezoning several
Correct.
parcels, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. More of a housekeeping item. Questions, comments?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
And I mentioned this previously, and it's not like a broken record, but I do want us to bring back for discussion, looking at the remainder of downtown from Campbellton Street east to Fairburn, which is, most people would consider part of downtown Douglasville, but it's not part of the CBD. So it has different development set of standards and setbacks and so forth. So I think I would like us to at least bring, not now, obviously, because it's like almost midnight, but it feels like it. But I would like us to bring that back for discussion to talk about incorporating the rest of downtown into the CBD as well.
No problem.
That's all, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Yes. Any other questions, comments? All righty, then we will take that up on Monday night. Is there any reason why I could not ask that that item be placed on the consent agenda? So I'll have one anyway. Thank you very much. That's all that we have, Madam Mayor, under Planning and Development.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Public Improvement and Beautification Committee, that's chaired by Councilmember Nicole Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business this evening for public improvement and beautification.
Thank you. Public Relations Committee, that's chaired by Councilmember Howard Estes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. PR Committee has no business this evening.
Thank you, sir. Public Safety Committee, chaired by Councilmember Samuel Davis.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Mayor, I have one item. Adopt a resolution to adopt and update Douglas County Multi-Jurisdiction Hazard Mitigation Plan as the official hazard mitigation plan of the City of Douglasville. Mr. Roberts, please. Moving right along.
Excuse me. Good evening, Mayor
Good
and
evening.
Council and city staff. Greg Roberts, Public Services Department, and I still don't remember my address, but sanitation at Douglasville, ga.gov, you can get us there. So this is the, just a renewal, if you will. It's an updating of the most previous one that we did was in 2015 for the multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. In a nutshell, this really puts us in line to be in a place to do GMA and FEMA grants. Should we have a major event here that we've had in years past, the flood was 11 years ago, was probably the most recent one of any magnitude, but this is certainly something that we would want to keep in force. It involves the city and Douglas County and the WSA.
Okay, any question from the mayor and council?
I had a quick question, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Roberts, is this inclusive of that monthly check with the warning sign? I see the thing where it has month and year.
You mean the warning
Like
sirens?
it does, like the siren?
It does not. I mean, it would tie to it in some way, but not specifically. That is part of it, though, having that system that the city put in place several years ago.
Okay, because I know the storm that we had last week or so, they said they didn't hear the siren, but we understand that the tornado was so quick that, and it did not say that it was coming from the Atlanta area to Douglasville, Douglas County, and so it went so fast that they weren't able to do the siren. I did have a lot of complaints about that at the bank, Synovus Bank in the downtown area. They said they did not hear the siren before the tree, fell on one of our citizens.
Yeah, so, and admittedly, there's a lot of misunderstanding with the warning sirens. So those are outdoor warning systems to hopefully catch people that are outside, outdoors, either recreation or working in their yard or at the park, some park, and they would hear the warning siren and they would know to get to safety.
Right.
That's really ultimately what it's for. It was never intended for me to hear it inside my home or inside my office over here. If you're at City Hall when it goes off, it's close enough, you probably would hear it, but you might not even hear it in City Hall if you're on the phone working. So it's really not intended for what a lot of people think it's for. The other component to what we had on Monday, May 3rd, is that Douglas County was the start point of that EF1 tornado. So we had a tornado watch that had been issued a little bit before that time period, but by the time the Weather Service was able to verify that there was a tornado,
Yes, sir.
it was already in Fulton County.
Yes.
In fact, we had a garbage truck that was at Pratt Industries on Fulton Industrial that received a little bit of damage. We've got it back on the road now, but had the windshield got knocked out of it, mirrors got knocked off. So that all happened really fast. And so by the time the warning was issued from the Weather Service, the city nor the county does not issue tornado warnings. That's through the National Weather Service. And so there's a little bit of a lag from the time they issue it till it hits your phones. We all have the apps on our phones. I do. And so by the time that hit my phone, it was already in Fulton County.
Okay, so this agreement does not cover that for us, or indirectly it does?
It's not the same, as how we're discussing it here. It's covered in here. It's a part of part of the mitigation is not only to help fix behind a catastrophic event, but in cases where a warning can be given prior to a catastrophic event, those warning sirens would go off. Had the tornado started in Carroll County, our warning sirens would have went off, and we'd have had plenty of warning. Almost none of us, and myself included, and I am a weather hound. I just partly because I'm prepared and with my staff. But we never think in terms of exactly when does a tornado start and how does that go about. It just starts, the circumstances are right for it, the atmosphere is right for it, but until it starts the rotation and comes down, they often see it. You've even saw it on the news, and I have too, where the weather folks will say, hey, this appears to have rotation. We think we might see ground clutter coming up into the air. That's when they issue those warnings.
Okay.
They do not really even have a report of a tornado at that time. It may be hitting, but they're seeing it on here.
Okay.
They're seeing it on their screen, and it's a rotation. And sometimes that rotation never comes out of the sky. It'll top trees, but it may not ever come down and actually hit anything or anybody.
Okay.
So we ended up being sort of the epicenter of the start of a tornado that started in south central Douglas County and was headed eastbound, but by the time the declaration made, it was already well into Fulton County.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gregg. I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? I'd like to put this on the consent agenda for Monday, Council. Okay, that's all I have, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Recreation, Culture, and Tourism Committee, that's chaired by Councilmember Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business tonight in Recreation, Culture, and Tourism.
Thank you, sir. Technology Committee, Mayor Pro Tem Terry Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have nothing under the Technology Committee at this time.
Thank you. Transportation Committee, chaired by Councilmember Dr. LaShawn Burr-Danley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No items tonight under transportation.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any other business from council members to come before us this evening? Updates from city staff. Our city attorney, Mr. Joel Dotson.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Staff attorney, Ms. Lynn Woodward.
No business tonight, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Chief of Police, is that Demings back there?
Yes, ma'am. No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much from the police department. Our city manager.
Just to remind you all that we will be returning back to business on June 3rd, the June round of meetings, meaning that you all will be behind the dais. If you have not seen, the CDC has issued new guidance on masks, which means that if you are vaccinated, you are not required to wear a mask, whether indoors or outdoors, nor social distance. As usual, we will not inquire whether or not someone's vaccinated or not. That is not what we will do. We will adjust our policies and what we do for the enjoyment of people, for your activities and different things that they participate in. The seating numbers, all of those requirements have been reduced by the governor in his latest executive order. We do suspect that as time goes on, that those will continue to be reduced and to the point that there is no longer an executive order by the governor issuing anything as far as safety guidance related to COVID and safety measures that you have to participate in, with the exception of what you may choose to do on your own. So therefore, starting June, everyone will be behind the dais. We will still have the temperature checks out front. We will still provide information regarding COVID instructions in case anybody wants to question anything legally. But we will have the tape removed from the seats, so individuals will be able to sit where they need to. And again, we've been open at City Hall. We're open. We are not allowing for large gatherings. We will withhold that for this summer, but as we move into the fall, we're open for business.
Are we returning committee meetings to the boardroom, or are we still going to do those here?
I think it just works better in here considering how much information you all have, and I think that you all probably prefer to just be in your seats and not have to move from one meeting to the other, unless you all want to go back to the boardroom.
No, we want to stay here.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only other thing that I will add, just to one point on the hazardous mitigation plan, that is a requirement that we have to do for the federal government. So you all will see that every so often the president has a mitigation plan. So states and local governments are required to do that. Hence the reason it's 400 pages.
Thank you so much, City Manager.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have any staff reports?
No, ma'am.
Okay, comments from citizens and delegates. Do we have anyone in the audience that sustained the meeting and would like to address us? If so, please come forward, give us your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes to make your comments to us, anything germane to city business or potential future city business. Good to see you, Mr. Hudson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Sam Hudson, 8503 Price Avenue,
Yes, sir.
Douglasville. Although my comment tonight is not agenda-related, I am hopeful that it could be a topic of conversation and an action item in the future. With the downtown master plan starting to come together, as a resident of downtown, I'm of the opinion that a police precinct can be part of this plan. I understand the need for a larger headquarters and have no issue with its move to Fairburn Road, but I feel that a smaller, full-time precinct and police presence could be housed in current city properties within the downtown area. A thriving downtown is composed of several elements: retail, food service, professional, and an engaged residential populace. Law enforcement is just as vital as these other aspects, and although there is certainly a police patrol presence here, having a police precinct as part of our community would complete the equation. Thank you for the opportunity to speak and for your consideration of this important issue.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hudson. We will definitely take that up for consideration. Our Public Safety Chair, Mr. Davis, will bring that to committee and have discussion about it. We appreciate your comments. Any other comments from citizens and delegates? If so, please come forward. You have 5 minutes to address us. Thank you. I don't see any. We do have an executive session, but I will adjourn into executive session to discuss a purpose for discussing a litigation matter, but we'll take a 10-minute recess before we go into executive session. Do we have any business? If not, we'll adjourn into executive session after a 10-minute recess.
Do we have